Alrighty, I think I'm live, a bit late. Sorry about that. Still, again, had issues with my DJI mic. Yeah, I just let me see if I can actually put the live stream over to my MacBook. Sorry, my iPad. Software update. No, not now, please. Later. Yes. Don't do it now, please. So I got a little impromptu setup this evening because I cannot go down to my actual office. So it's a bit of a makeshift thing here. I hope we'll manage. I also hope I can have an eye on the chat. I'm trying to get better at this. This is actually the second, well, it's the third live stream for today. I just really enjoy it. I don't know what to tell you. And it's the second one that deals with anti-fragility stuff. Just let me do a bit of housekeeping here to say that this is actually number 1 and number 2. Let's see. Oh, I actually hear myself talking in the actual live stream, me watching the live stream, so I can see the chat. I turned this down. Let me just actually also include the thumbnail to the Miro board. As I said once or a couple times before, probably lots of times before, I really love Miro. For me, it's just such a great and intuitive way of just kind of getting my mental images out there, right? To kind of making them, having the pictures materialize in a way. So that's still the plan. I was cut short this afternoon to actually get going with trying to come up with something that's at least more robust than what I had before. It's far from being anti-fragile in the truest sense. If you are interested in what anti-fragility actually means, how I think about it, it comes from this book by Nassim Taleb, and I talk a little bit about his book, and you find a couple of YouTube videos that actually talk about it and kind of try to synthesize the key takeaways, and in 2 of them he also gets to speak and tell a little bit about his book. I think it's a masterpiece, and what I actually want to continue with is this part here, right? It's basically those 2 things that I need to solve, or 1, solve, and 2, I'd like to solve it in a way that it becomes a anti-fragile Lego brick or code module, right? And even though I might not succeed in making it truly anti-fragile, which would mean basically that it thrives by uncertainty, volatility, changing systems, that's kind of really hard to do. And again, I know I forgot the word again. Megalomaniac. Größenwahnsinnig. Yeah, I'm not megalomaniac. It's such a fun word. So I know that this is something that's not probably easy to do, and maybe not possible at all. But the journey is the destination, basically, and in that spirit, I want to deal with finding a generalizable way that can handle both synchronous and asynchronous interaction patterns with my database backend while being usable within Streamlit, but not only in Streamlit, because it should be a generalized code component. And that's what I want to do, basically, right? While doing so, I'd like to leverage composition over inheritance for all the class definitions that enter the picture while trying to accomplish this. And Antifragile is just not just, but it's for now it's a meta mindset. In future videos and in future code, I hope to move even closer towards that goal, right? So with that, let's jump back into Cursor, which is on the wrong screen, which would be the iPad. So let's bring it over. And I think I would like to start with reading through parts of the stuff that I actually did manage to do this afternoon while not streaming anymore. So after the live stream, basically, let me just, yeah, basically, I think we got this far of getting halfway through the initial prompt that I was firing. Let me see. This might be a little bit too big, but that's, let me think. I need to actually, no, I can't. Some monitoring management issues here. I need to minimize this other code project that I have opened. Yeah, so I hope this is big enough. It should be big enough. Right, I basically outlined what I want to do and told the agent that I wanted it to make use of two reference documents. One was, they are all in the ref directory, and one is dealing with or concerned with anti-fragility and what this actually means and what the key takeaways are. This is based off a perplexity conversation, or yeah, perplexity interaction slash conversation. And then I had this old kind of synthesis of the transcript of this video that I highlighted here or referenced here by the Primeagen, or the Primetime. I think that's what his channel is called, but I think he goes by the name the Primeagen. And I asked, or we are using two things. So we are using a tool from my MCP server that I just finished finished creating, or I can highlight this here, called the init prompt tool. But then we also kind of gave an additional instruction that I only want the code agent to reason about what I actually want to do, and I want to discuss first before it jumping the gun and actually implementing something. And what grew out of this is actually quite good. So the model, which is again 3.5 Sonnet thinking, I tend to use this at the moment if I really think it's beneficial to make use of the thinking part, which it was designed for, obviously. And let me just find so here we call the tool. Maybe it's a bit too big. I hope you can manage with this. So the architecture analysis, the challenges with Streamlit, and this is exactly the main issue that I'm having, because I just don't understand it well enough yet, and I want to, basically, right? This is again, I understood that I need to be even more in the driver's seat when it comes to using Streamlit, basically, for anything other than just toy examples. That's kind of putting it really harshly, but something along those lines. And the event loop doesn't naturally work with async IO, which is a package or a module. State management across reruns, that's a thing, and no built-in async or await support. I think at least before Streamlit 1.27. Not sure which one I'm using, but I need to definitely dive deeper. So Claude Sonnet 3.5 Sonnet Thinking provided some stuff, which is in itself already along the lines that I want to go toward. And it then asked me about a couple of things, a couple of strategies that lean toward anti-fragility, the stepping stones toward true anti-fragility, which we might never, accomplish, are things like resilience, robustness, fail-safe, self-healing, dealing with interruptions or disturbances in any way. And those 5 or 6 topics, those were the suggestions. I actually liked all of them except the true testing with chaos part. It seems a bit out there, even for me, right? I think this is a great idea probably to do there's some chaos monkey testing frameworks, I think. I think they're called something chaos monkey. I'm pretty sure that both terms occur there, but don't don't know how to say that in English, just realized. Don't pinpoint me on that, basically. In German you would say nagel mich nicht drauf fest. Nagel mich nicht drauf fest. Don't pin me down on that. Apparently that's the translation, at least according to Google Translate. Sorry, keep jumping back to the wrong window here. So yeah, what I also told it then, which I think was quite important, is to not be tied down by my previous code, which originated through long-running conversations with Claude 3.5 Sonnet, with my old prompt templates, basically, in which I tried to make things work. And I had the feeling that the code just grew more complex and complex and more complex. And we just never really got anywhere. So this is when a couple of days ago I basically said, hey, I'm gonna cut it right here. We need to tackle this entire problem from a totally different angle. I need to really deep dive on this async and Streamlit issue or thing. And so the code that I'm referring to is the code in my first live stream on this today. I carried this over into the reference directory. So this is basically my old implementation of a tool that I need for work. And I basically just told it, hey, start looking. We're starting with the database interaction layer and everything that's concerned with that in our code base. Have a look how we did it, and you see it's quite involved with health checks and state management and context managers and lots of stuff, right? And I think it's pretty out of proportion. So that's why I told it, hey, do not feel that you need to comply with or make the old code base work, kind of, but feel free to think freely. And I told it then to adapt the general approach, which it outlined up here. It's not a game plan yet because we're not there yet. So yeah, if it thinks it wants to revise some stuff, that it can go ahead and do so. This, whenever I do a freeform prompt, this still works for me quite well to say, hey, think this through thoroughly. Think it through in a step-by-step manner. Take into consideration the entire code base. And then sometimes stuff like be laser focused or choose the most lightweight and most direct approach that you can think of, and so on and so forth. Yeah, yeah, I totally understand. I'm just experimenting with time slots, and also uh, my energy level today just made me continue. So I'm not sure which time slot I'm aiming at for the live streams. Sorry, should have mentioned that I'm responding to a comment. Try to glance over the live stream, the chat, the live chat, sorry, once in a while. And it came back thinking this through and actually had some code changes. And this is basically the core principles then that it outlined. And one thing that caught my attention is the circuit breaker component, because I read through it, or I glanced over it, and I just couldn't make initial sense of it. So I went ahead and asked, so what is the exact job of the circuit breaker component? And then it basically said that in complex systems, this pattern is sometimes or usually applied. I mean, I'm completely new to resilient, dynamically self-healing systems. But apparently that's a thing, at least to Claude 3.5 Sonnet thinking. And that the circuit breaker is basically dealing with preventing cascading failures by basically opening or closing certain circuits, which I translate into information flows or pipelines, in a manner that's beneficial for the entire system, right? To have stuff like graceful degradation, failure prevention, self-healing, and so on, automatic recovery. And I thought this is so interesting enough that I want to learn more about this and the various aspects attached to this entire can of worms, basically, of having dynamic systems that are ideally more like an organism than something statically, put into code in a static form, if you will. Still completely fuzzy what I want to do, but I think there are people out there and schools of thought and implementations of how to do that long before I even had the idea that I want to embark on this direction. So there's one brain cell that says, hey, we should learn something about this, kind of fired. And then I decided, hey, let's actually use that as another example for you out there, and also for me to be a bit more systematic about how I want to learn about this stuff. And the way or the system that I chose is that I want to create basically a Quarto compendium, if you will. Quarto is, let me put that down in Miro real quick. It's yeah, thanks, Yellow. Have a nice evening and enjoy Fasching. Quarto it's so many things. I will not start to talk about Quarto, because it's awesome, but it's a handful, basically. It's not easily described. I think of it as the better version of the evolution of something that is currently still Jupyter Notebooks in Python land, and the evolution of what R Markdown is in the R land. I need to probably learn how to spell with a mirrored camera. But the letter R, right? It's a thing. I think not too many people know about this language. It's cool. It's my first love before coming over to Python. So I'll put it down here just as I will how do you call that? Additional information needs to be cleaned up a bit. So Quarto, right? Have a look at it's a great website. They have great guides and a gallery of what you can do with it. Maybe that much. Based on one Um, Now I talk about it anyways, right? Let me see, using Python. Yeah, this is a good example. So the thing is that based on a purely text-based document, you can mix three things: meta information, code, and prose, which is just pure like normal text that you would also put in a markdown document, right? And you see an example here. This part here is the meta information. That's just regular stuff with something referenced with at. And this here is obviously, oops, sorry, Python code. And as you can see, it's wrapped in the three backticks, which is typical for denoting in Markdown, denoting a code block. But it has this cool feature of having you can write or can use curly brackets, parentheses, curly brackets, I think they're called, and within those brackets define the programming language that you want to use. And not just not just Python is supported, but things like R, SQL, Bash, lots of things. And the cool thing is that once you render this, you get something like this, right? You get an HTML, an interactive HTML page, or you could turn it into a PDF document or a Word document or whatever. You just saw the here. You basically see what you can do with it: dashboards, articles, presentations. And the cool thing is you have one single source of truth, which is the Markdown or the Quarto document, what I just showed you. And based on that single source of truth, you can render or output many document forms or file formats, basically, if you will, to be a bit more general. And so I thought that this is a good. I love Quarto. Huge shout outs to the creators of it that embarked on that journey. I think like 4 years ago, something like that, probably longer. I'm mixing up my time is blurry. And I wanted basically to the that that learning content to end up in an own document. I also advised the model to do a web search once more to be really sure that we are running on the most recent developer documents for Quarto or using Quarto with Python. And this is just a precautionary thing because in my MCP server there's still a fetch URL tool that doesn't do a really good job in stripping away HTML markup language, so it would just convolute the entire conversation. So it's better to use, much better to use the built-in functionality to do web search, and that's basically what I just told it to do. And then it went ahead and did its thing with creating the Antifragile code compendium, right? And let me just show you that really quick. It's basically here, right? You got the core concepts folder, and there's anti-fragility and composition over inheritance. There's folders for practical examples, resilience patterns, and so on, right? So I didn't really structure this. I let the model structure the compendium, or how the compendium looks like. The most important, not the most important, but one central piece of in Quarto is the index.qmd. So the file extension is QMD for Quarto, and it basically brings all the stuff together from the various subdirectories and its files, basically, right? And we then had a couple, or defined a couple of scripts to render. For example, this is the command for, or the script, excuse me, for rendering the code compendium to HTML. Looks a bit involved. You basically just need to, you need this command here, right? The rest is if and else statements. So the Quarto is the the binary basically that we're calling. Render is the command, and then you basically just need to specify where your Quarto document files live. In our case, it's the learning directory, and then with --2, you specify which format you want the Quarto doc to render to. In our case, this is HTML. We then went on to combine it a little bit more with, to make it a bit more user-friendly or developer-friendly by coming up with a Python script that basically ties everything together on a meta level and some make files. Quite interesting approach to see what exact approach the model chooses or the coding agent chooses to actually make this Quarto thing happen. Also something to learn there, like second order learning, if you will. And this is the render.py. It's also a py script, which also is located in the scripts subdirectory. And it basically is just some, some combinational stuff so that we render everything, or can, we have different choices, but the overall goal here is to just have something that's easy to call by running it through the command line. And basically here you see how you render the Quarto compendium. And this materializes then as this thing here, right? So this entire website has been created by the Quarto documents. And while this might not be the most the most polished version of a compendium or such a website, it has lots of cool things that are already built in, basically, if you know your way around a bit around Quarto. For example, having on the left-hand side, having a table of contents, having everything being linked, hopefully correctly. So here we got the core concepts drop down, so we can jump to core concepts and then we actually move there, right? So the entire page navigation is already working. Examples of how to actually do something like async support for databases when using Streamlit, and so on and so forth. So I haven't checked this yet, by no means, right? So everyone that's doing Gen AI stuff, especially with coding, you know that hallucination is a big issue, and I'm sure there's hallucinated parts in here. But yeah, I want to leverage this entire thing for learning, primarily for myself. Obviously, I will share everything that I learn with you as well, so you can learn along, or yeah, cherry pick whatever you want to learn if you want to learn something from this. Right, and this is basically where I left off, right? So what I would do now is now that I have the learnings persisted in a way, at least, or started with the learning compendium, I will continue with the main track of actually making this happen, basically. Let me scroll back. And the implementation steps. Right, so I would maybe just, so to make the model know or aware that this is where this is what I want to continue with, I would just maybe, it should be able to find it by me just referencing it. And let me just think how to phrase this. Let's continue with what you outlined, summarized in the section implementation steps. Let's be really tidy and call the tool for the initial prompt once more with a focused, with a detailed yet concise description of what our objective is, let's just see if it's able to pick up on the meta thing, what we want to do, which is, you know, revamping our database layer, making it able to handle sync and async, and making it work like seamless and without any headaches in Streamlit, but not only in Streamlit, right? So let's see how. I'm deliberately not starting a new chat because then I would have to think about what parts I need to carry over or how I want the model to reason about the stuff that already happened. And interesting. So now it's checking what it wrote down or persisted in the learnings document as an actual hint of what we want to do next. Which I think is, it might be a bad idea, it might be too much, and it might be not focused enough for our actual code thing we want to accomplish, because it's geared toward learning and it's geared toward myself. But let's see, maybe it's a good thing because it does provide more context for what's important, right? Regarding anti-fragility and all that stuff. It then decides, or as this would have been really bad if it didn't at some point call my MCP server to apply the initial prompt template. So it does that now. And I didn't read through the exact prompt of how it phrased the objective, but yeah, let's just, oh, one thing I forgot. Sorry, I talked about this in the live stream. Some infra tech stack information. We're using first we're using UV. It's really important. I'd like to use SQLite for testing sync, and Postgres. This does not need to be coded for async. Postgres should be, well, let's put that in number 3. I would like to use Docker Compose for all my services in the dev environment. Right now, probably mainly a service for Postgres and one for the front end layer, i.e. Streamlit. Service for the back end layer, database layer, i.e. Postgres. Should we choose to implement an API, it should be done with Fast API. What else? So we got UV, we got Docker Compose. Let's have Docker files should be multi-stage where it makes sense. I do not want to copy my entire code base into the image, but rather leverage UV pip install. I think that's what it's called. And with Poetry, it's Poetry install to install the package, our code as a Python package. I think with UV it's UV pip install. Leverage UV pip install, and then no, sorry. I think it's UV pip build. I know more about poetry than I know about UV, and that's why I might struggle a little bit and kind of learn about UV as we go along. But with poetry, there's something like poetry build, which builds your package, and then we can install it through with pip install, for example, and then but rather leverage pip install and then sorry, UV pip build if that's a thing, and then pip install in a later stage. Yeah, I think this is enough for now. This should be, it's part of my infra prompt template, but it's not done yet, so I need to kind of wing this aspect. And off we go. So we let it run through this once more. Obviously also calling our tool once more. Oh, interesting. It chose, that's nice. Well, I might have celebrated too early. Yep. Well, a bit. Okay. I've celebrated a bit too early, but it did make use of the specific instruction argument slash option that we built into the tool, right? I'm not gonna go into detail about this in this live stream because it's not about the MCP server stuff in detail, but more about anti-fragility stuff. But that's kind of nice. It can be improved, I think, but this is the prompt template that we're actually using. Talked about that stuff in my other live streams over the last couple of days. Confirmation stuff, it does confirm, which I asked it to in the prompt template, to kind of replay certain things that are important, and it basically got everything right or remembers everything. The core components, the connection manager, session provider, the circuit breaker. Okay, so it does remember what it kind of highlighted already in the code further up the conversation, which is great. Design patterns. I think I know a couple. I'm not a software engineer by trade, so I didn't study. I don't have a computer science degree, but I'm completely fascinated by it, and I try to regard software engineering as a both a craftsmanship and a kind of like fuzzy science. So I always want to learn more, and design patterns obviously are a great source for learning, right? It's kind of sometimes hard to strike the balance of you can completely get caught up in thinking only in design patterns and never getting anything done because you always think about what's the perfect design pattern combination that I need to use. Sometimes it's just start with something and then see how well it works, and if you need to tweak it, then you do, and if it doesn't follow any design pattern anymore, it's also fine, right? But there are lots of cool ones out there. What worked for me is the ports and adapter pattern, I think that's what it's called, and the repository pattern, especially with when dealing with the database layer. Decorators are awesome in Python. I love decorators, and I think I could leverage it even more. Composition obviously is kind of like a meta pattern, I would say. Factory pattern, also something I use more and more. Sometimes I think it's a bit overkill, but yeah, it's none of this strikes me as being completely off for our use case, so I like it. The tech stack, yeah, Python's a bit outdated. I could probably set that to 3.11 or 3.12. SQL model, that's really, oh, I forgot that, but I picked up on it. That's good. Docker Compose, Streamlit front end, fast API, cool. Let's see what else we might need to check before actually get going. Yeah, this looks all good. Let me create the game plans directory and generate a timestamp for our game plan file. We'll do so. I'm interested, the game plan should contain UV stuff, right? Setting up the project, because if you take a look into our directory, there's no pipe project toml, for example. There's no README yet. There's nothing that actually makes the code base anything else yet than just a couple of directories with stuff in it, right? So interested in seeing how it structures this, because this was never part of my initial prompt objective. The UV stuff, I usually took care of that already. Let's clean up here a little bit to make things a bit easier to follow. So the first order of business is the code agent did create the game plans directory. If you've watched anything from me in the last couple of weeks / months, you know that I'm a big fan of having persisting what we want to do in a game plan. So the human, aka the carbon meatbag, and the silicon-based intelligence, aka the code agent, can basically reason about this and align on a shared document that details the plan. It's always structured in stages that are not too big and not too small. So we can have git commits. After each stage, each task has a checkbox, so we can at one glance see for any given game plan what has already been implemented, what's still left to do. And one thing, this is an unlock that I managed today with my MCP server, that after the model or the code agent creates the game plan, it stops and asks the user, aka me, for confirmation for implementing the very first stage, right? And even though this might sound a bit over the top, mandatory confirmation with emojis and violations will be punished and stuff in that regard, critical violation, right? It was a journey until we got there, that this would happen reliably, that the model stops and asks. So it's unfortunately what seems to be necessary at this point. I would now call the second most important prompt template that ships with my MCP server, as it is at the moment. And this is the proceed prompt template, right? Again, I will not go into detail about this right now, but I will just show you how it is called. Please use the tool for the proceed prompt template. And now it should call the apply prompt proceed tool. Which is happening right here. And basically the task is, hey, look at the game plan. We could actually also reference this here. Interesting choice of, wait, did I Antifragile DB? Yeah, sorry, I don't know. I just thought, hey, something went wrong with the timestamp, but I just didn't look correctly or thoroughly enough. So it's basically saying, hey, look at the game plan that we just came up with and start implementing stage 1. After you've done, give me git commit, update the game plan, and then wait again for user confirmation on before tackling the next stage. So we'll run this tool. And this is the part where vibe coding basically enters the picture again. Let me just go back to in Miro and just show this this picture where the three components basically that make the thing work for me come together. So vibe coding, prompt templates, and wrapping the prompt templates in tools of an MCP server. That's basically what I managed to do over the last couple of days. And it will now start creating the source directory with interesting. I didn't tell it Antifragile DB. Yeah, so it's choosing a name for the module. I'm okay with this. I might change it later on, but it's good for now. So we are using a source-based package layout or project layout. I will probably at one point do a video about this or maybe a video series, but I think Aryan Codes has some good stuff on that. Let me just use this tab here. Aryan Codes source-based layout. I think I saw it. Yeah, this is 2 years ago, but I'm assuming, and didn't check it, but I'm assuming that he talks about source-based package layouts in here as well. So don't pin me on that. I think that was the saying. But just have a look. I'm sure there's lots of cool stuff in there, even though it might not be source-based package layouts might not be mentioned. Right, so what's happening? We are creating a PyProject toml. It should have this line, which is really important to make basically the entire package system and mechanics work, especially with the imports. I'm not sure if it's enough. I'll check that in a second, but it's definitely I should have brought some water. Excuse me. It's definitely important and an integral part of any UV and or poetry based or facilitated Python project. The same goes for README. It must be there. And now it creates the package structure. And while it's doing so, I'm getting a bit of water. Be right back. Okay. So I'm not actually checking this at the moment because at this point we're creating all new components, so not that much can actually go wrong. It's rather at later stages that I'm more wary about, understanding code changes and being much more in the driver's seat. This sounds like an excuse. 20% of that is probably an excuse. The rest is actually my conviction, basically. Basic unit tests. Interesting. I haven't seen that before. Usually my tests are directly below the tests. Oh yeah, okay, so because at some point, either in my cursor rules or somewhere, maybe the model also decided it, but in my infra, where did I put this? Here, in my infra code template, which again is not complete yet, there is Units. I think, yeah, testing PyTests, and we got integration tests. No, it's not that. Okay, interesting. Sorry, forget what I just said. This must be the decision of the coding agent to actually distinguish unit tests and integration tests, which definitely I think makes sense. I'm not too deep into how to do integration testing correctly or in a best practice manner. I rather always only focused on unit testing and getting that right, which is complicated enough. More on that at a later stage. But yeah, okay. So again, let's just accept all. For now, it's already doing the CI as well with GitHub Actions, because that's also something well, it definitely went through my infra prompt template, which I hope it's not too much, because it's not polished yet, and I hope it's not too much context that for the model to go into many infrastructure component directions at once and losing sight of what we actually want to do, which is focus on database layer. But let's see. It's a good test of my prompt template and also how much, you know, context the new Claude models can actually handle. Let's verify that our setup works by running the unit tests with PyTest, which is great. There's also the option to run it through unit test, the unit test module or package. I think unit test ships with Python, whereas PyTest, I think PyTest ships with Python as well. Not sure about this. Okay, we're not using the virtual environment. That's why. So this actually didn't go through. It didn't recognize it yet, which is weird. It's a weird quirk by Cursor. And I forgot again how do I create a virtual env with through UV. It's UV-venv, okay, which will create a virtual environment .venv directory. Here it is. Oh, wow. Failed to parse during discovery. Okay, well, let's tackle one after the other. That's some initial stuff that sometimes goes wrong. Let's just accept interesting. Implementation estimated timeline 2 days. Not quite, right? So before we continue, there's a Python version mismatch. Let's see. Maybe I can actually take care of that myself. Let's actually set that to 312. No, it's not that. So let's just feed this over to which is a good opportunity to showcase the dual root cause analysis and fix prompt. It's probably that's another saying that I don't know the English equivalent for. Shooting sparrows with cannons. If that's really the translation, it sounds a bit literal, but okay. But it's a good it's a good opportunity for me to check the fix prompt. So use the tool for applying the fix prompt template. Should be able to figure out which tool to call. And in the prompt that is called, okay, this didn't work yet, so I think I need to, oh, it did. Apply prompt fix. In this, or by calling this tool, we are feeding our model basically a directive of how to go about troubleshooting and fixing the issue. And one specific thing or particular thing is to do a root cause analysis. And I had great results with making this really explicit, right? And not letting the model decide on what to do and how to implement the fix and what the possible solutions are. So UV is installed, it's checking some stuff, and it then is running into the same issues. Now let's activate the virtual environment. Interesting. So this again might be this is only a warning. Why is this a parse error at line 86? Not sure. Oh yeah, it's the fish thing again, the fish shell thing again. I'm using fish, and sometimes it makes things a bit more complicated. So now we actually, it looks like to me that we managed to get the virtual environment going and installing all the packages that we want/need for our project. In that virtual environment, we can actually follow along by looking at, was it lib or bin? No, it's lib. Maybe not. I think there should be lots of folders in here for the different dependencies. Again, oh yeah, now they materialize. I was just about to say, not an UV expert, but that much I know about virtual environments by now. And yeah, so that worked. I need to, let's actually, let's let it finish with, oh no, we can save that for another project. I was just about to add UV stuff to the learning compendium, but that would be taking it one step too far, too early, right? This is not of the utmost importance. It seems the direct path to the PyTest executable isn't working, so yeah, we need to call whatever we want to call to make it work with our virtual environment. That's again something I'm not too fond yet, but we definitely ran the tests now, right? And let's check or try to run it. Test directory structure to see what files are and then actually available. So 1 failed, 5 passed. Let's also check all the tests to see the full test suite. And in one of my other live streams, I basically talked a bit about unit testing and how it's at the one hand really needed and useful, and at the other hand, if you don't watch out really closely on how to instruct the model to create unit tests and then how to deal with failing unit tests, then you run the risk of quite fast, quite rapidly deteriorating your code base. And let's see. At this point, I would actually. I have another prompt template that deals exactly with how to do unit testing, but it might be too much now to throw. It's not, the boundaries of when does fixing stop and when does unit testing start is not clearly defined yet, also in my head, and let alone in the prompt template. So there's some overlap, and I want unit testing and the fixes that result in failed tests to be really happen in a systematic manner. But I fear the risk of throwing too much content at this now, at the model now, and so I will just let it continue with the initial fixes without a guiding prompt template around it. So what files do I actually have up in the pending state here? Let's see, it was only that, I guess. Yeah. So let's do the PyTest command again. 3 failed, 8 passed. So we're making progress, exactly. And the utils environments is basically to detect the environment. I think it's regarding deployment versus development, and also detecting if Streamlit entered the picture or is in the picture or not. I think that much I remember from our initial conversation from this afternoon. So we updated the environment.py file, then also the test for it. And it's also updated get run info to pass the for testing parameter. Okay, sure. Let's do that. Okay, one additional fail. This is exactly what I meant, right? It's easy to get caught up or have the model be caught up in, you know, trying to fix unit tests and then sometimes fixing it by breaking the code in order to make the unit test work, which obviously is not what's desired. Oh, I forgot one thing. I'm using .env vault, Python .env-vault for my credential or security management, which is an awesome, I think, an awesome package slash framework. But because I saw that there's an environment variable app-env. Oh, I hope I didn't confuse the model by now. Yeah, we reached the 25 tool call limit, so I would just say continue, please. And now everything passed. Felt a bit magic, but we accepted all the changes. No, we don't. We didn't. Did we? All right, all tests are passing now. Let's clean up the debugging print statements we added earlier. Sure, why not? And tests are still passing. Great. Perfect. Summarize what we've done so far. PyTest command not found. Right, with these changes, the environment detection is now working and all tests are passing the PyTest command. Would you like to update the make file? I'm good. I'd rather understand where we are in the process of implementing our game plan, our referenced game plan. So I want to steer the model back to what we actually wanted to do. This was kind of like a side quest to fix the unit testing errors. And that's also something I haven't found a really good solution for, of having like the main thread of what we want to do, and then allowing for those deviations that are just necessary at times, right? It wouldn't make that much sense to put this off until a later date or time to focus on stuff that actually went wrong when trying to test things, right? Test our code that we've just written before moving on. But sometimes those deviations kind of also mean that the context window is just filling up with stuff and the model is just getting more and more confused of what's really important. So let's see. Based on our game plan, we've completed stage 1. Yep, next up stage 2. Would you like to begin working on stage 2 components, or would you prefer to review any specific part of the stage 1 implementation? I would then, this is good. This is exactly what I had hoped for, that the model remembers where we are, and we are at stage 1 being completed, and now moving into stage 2, the core component implementation, right? The connection manager, session provider, and so on. So I would go ahead and call the proceed prompt template once more through our tool in our MCP server. Please use the tool for applying the proceed template. I'm deliberately leaving out prompt here just to check if the model is able to reason about which tool to actually call now. And it finds the right one, the proceed, which is just exactly what I wanted to do or wanted it to do. It will focus on stage 2 now and just goes ahead. Interface for our core components. Let's maybe follow along a little bit with looking at the source Antifragile DB and probably core components. So I'm assuming, since section 2 is talking about the core component implementation, that we'll fill up or we'll implement components that belong to the module core, right? Just as this one, which just deals with certain abstract classes. As if I see it correctly, ABC is basically an abstract method, exactly. So those are the base classes, or the interface classes, if you will. The file is also called interface, right? So not that hard to reason about this. This was directed toward myself. I have like total respect for anyone that's just starting out and feeling completely overwhelmed by, you know, how to, if you don't want to write spaghetti code, that's big. Although sometimes it's okay-ish, but once you're okay with, or you accepted that, hey, not everything, you need to move away from spaghetti code, then it's the question of how do you structure your code projects? What's too much, too fine granularly structured code? What's too coarse? You know, what's too the opposite of fine granular, I think, is coarse. Yeah, maybe forget about that for the moment. It's getting late and my brain is kind of slowing down a little bit, but yeah, it's also great for me to learn what the model actually proposes, and then checking that back with what I see in other code projects and GitHub repos of how other people structure their code, and finding the sweet spot, and then codifying that sweet spot in prompt templates. So I can rest assured that whenever I want to do something, the coding agents do it exactly the way that I want to build my Python packages, or fast APIs, or Streamlit apps, or what have you, right? Database backends in our case. Okay, so let's maybe follow along. Interfaces. implement connection manager, implement the session provider. Yeah, so this is all different files, but all, let's check once more, all abstract classes. Or classes that inherit from the async session provider. Inheritance reminds me of inheritance versus composition. That's something we definitely need to check once more, how far up in the consideration set this aspect still is. So the model will now come back and say, hey, stage 2 is actually done. Oh, one thing the model didn't do is to stop to run a, how interesting, now it wants to proceed already, but I will intervene with please provide a git commit. Actually, I think I didn't even call git init yet. Let's see. Always good practice to check what's actually going to be committed at the very first time, because I'm not even sure if we have a git ignore file. We don't. Let's actually do that first. Please create a well-crafted git ignore. Please then yeah, should probably also have there's like so much potential here, right? To also codify all the git related stuff into code templates, prompt templates. But let's not go down that rabbit hole for now. What is it doing? Where's the, oh yeah, git ignore, sorry. I just didn't spot it on the left hand side. And there's nothing mission critical from a privacy perspective yet. So yeah, so I want everything actually to go there. One might argue if learning we should probably move that to a separate repo at some point. But for now, since it's tightly related to the code that we are and all the concepts and ideas that we are dealing with in the package project, I'll decide to leave it in for now. So we do a git add all, git commit, and then not have that the typical initial commit, but actually have something substantial already, because we forgot to do the initial commit before. And it's not on GitHub yet, and I'm not that sure about what I want the repo to be named, to be quite honest. So I'll postpone that to a later stage, but I will definitely move this stuff up on GitHub for you to, follow along. I'm going to proceed with implementing stage 3, and I would say yes, please use the tool, though, the correct tool for that. Let's see if it even is able to handle or make sense of that instruction, because that it should make of it that it should call the tool, the proceed tool once more. I think it does. Yeah, it does. Cool. Apply prompt proceed. Exactly. Let's clean up a little bit again. So stage 3 is the database integration. So we having adapters. I talked about the ports and adapters pattern basically for SQLite and Postgres. Develop environment-specific configuration mechanisms. I always am a bit wary when I hear something like that, because it quickly, stuff like that can quickly config mechanisms, or yeah, config mechanisms. It's actually what it's called. You always risk in blowing just this one portion of your code base up out of proportion, basically. I don't know if that sentence made sense, but what I want to say is that sometimes the code agent or the LLMs just focus on making like a tiny thing of your code base like super fancy, and that's exactly what I want to work against by saying, hey, always choose the most lightweight, straightforward, minimalistic approach to rather focus on good maintainability and great extensibility, and not so much of coming up with the most elegant solutions that you could possibly think of, right? But let's see. Connection pooling, that's also something that I sometimes had the feeling is a bit overkill for, especially when working with Streamlit. But let's see. I'm not too deep into the connection pooling details yet, so I might be completely wrong here. Transaction management, yeah, important with committing and kind of rolling back, and it's related to asset operational stuff. Database migration utilities, we should probably use Alembic for that, and add database health checks, mechanism deploy integration tests. Yeah, sure, why not? So let's see where this stuff lives in the adapters submodule, right? So if we follow along, actually the linter errors are related to, they're not errors, sorry, they're warnings. So we got the adapters here. So adapters does have subdirectories for the Postgres and SQLite adapters. Interesting choice. I'm always kind of struggle in figuring out for myself how many subdirectories do I want in my to structure my modules and submodules, and what is actually ending up in a file, and how much functionality do you combine in just one file, as opposed to structuring them or putting them in different files in different directories, right? That's still ongoing learning on my end as well. What did I want to, now I forgot what I wanted to actually look at. I forgot. Sorry. Oh yeah, the linter warnings. It seems to work though. Sometimes if you see squiggly lines, linter warnings, then it's sometimes just easily fixable by going into the command palette and making sure that the interpreter is selected or set to the right thing, which is venv, right? So you should, oh, interesting. It's the wrong venv. So that's quite interesting. So we probably need to reinstall. Somehow I have some setting in Cursor that automatically uses a old venv virtual environment from another code project, which is not what I like, in 99.9% not what I want. I just don't know how to roll it back, so it's kind of annoying, but I caught it at least now. Right, so we're already at integration testing. So this is obviously, we talked about the structure of our tests subdirectory, which has integration and units as subdirectories basically, and thus structuring the different types of tests, or separating the different types of tests. Here, that's what I'm talking about: tests, integration, and unit. We did work with the unit tests. Now we're dealing with integration tests. As I said in the beginning, I'm not that fond yet with that, so I'm actually quite interested in seeing how this materializes basically. So it's a PyTest after all, but probably need to have lots of test fixtures and stuff like that. Yeah, like here to kind of mimic or mock certain tech stack components and async, simulating asynchronous patterns, I guess. I don't know. For stuff like testing the migration manager and so on. So this and now the connection failed. Great. This seems like a can of worms, but let's see how far we get. I would like in this live stream to at least reach a point where we can possibly test something at least with SQLite, and ideally already move towards having some really lightweight and minimalistic implementation of a Streamlit app that is actually using our components. But let's see, it's already almost, how do you say that? Half two? No, you say half past, but so we're almost like half an hour away from midnight. That's what I want to say. So let's see how long I can manage to concentrate. Because I don't know about you, there's like in the afternoon, I'm usually still full of energy and always kind of mapping out what in the evening I could still tackle. And then comes like supper and bringing my son to bed, and somehow someone is pulling the energy plug in a way. So let's see, I can go a little longer. So stage now is now complete. We didn't run the integration tests, which I actually like at this point because I don't want to get caught up in fixing, as we had to do before, fixing unit tests or integration tests, just not yet, right? So we are in the git commit stage. Yeah, sure, why not? And actually, before proceeding, I switched the Python interpreter. Can you double check if everything related to the virtual environment is still working correctly? I just want to be sure that our dependencies are actually still, everything should be fine, because no matter what the setting in cursor is or for the interpreter, we should be able to we are in fact using our venv here. We saw that the packages were all installed into here, right? So I'm actually quite confident that everything is fine. Yeah, it's grabbing SQL model, for example. Notice the virtual environment exists, but we're not activating it. Interesting. I think we did, but maybe not. And the packages isn't installed in the development mode. Let's try activating the virtual environment, installing the package. Please. So yeah, but I think I would rather have this done with UV functionality, and this is like raw pip install e, which nothing wrong with that per se. To create the virtual environment and install the packages in development mode using UV. Okay, so let me learn. So UV venv, and explicitly naming it venv. I think which is not needed. Then we activate it, and then we check some stuff. And then there's a tumble parsing error. Okay, that's good. We now identified a parsing error, which we got a warning about. And it's Python-version. Interesting. Good that we talked about this, as we say in German. So, oh wow, we're removing the entire venv and then recreating it. Sure, why not? Okay, that's interesting. Now we are getting rid of this statement. Why are we doing that? Let's install the package in development mode using UV. Fine. I trust the vibe coding gods. Shouldn't have. Missing pedantic setting. Oh, pedantic settings. Okay. Async repository. As you might notice, I'm trying to get a bit more into the driver's seat now, because now we have something like an initial code base. It's not completely detailed or implemented yet, so breaking changes are still not that crucial, but we're running into issues, right? And I want to understand, at least on some level, what the issues are. Okay, it requires 2 types of parameters. Let's see. What's the second one? Model type and dict. And before we had model type. Okay. So let me just reason about this quickly. I think the change here is in the, yeah, okay, in the square brackets, I think they're called. Okay, fine with that. Let's also fix the SQLite adapter in the same way. You sure? I'm on board with that. Now let's try installing and testing again. Okay, now this works. Perfect. One's failing. That the test expects SQLite. Okay, SQLite versus SQL memory. Interesting. SQLite. Where does it differ? Don't care, I trust you on this. Now let's run the tests again where we are at the core factory. So this is important, but I think this is just initial alignment stuff. So I'm still fine with it doing what it thinks to do best. I noticed that I start saying more it than he, which is interesting. Not really sure why, because as I said in another videos, I am actually not a fan of anthropomorphizing, but it's something I have tended or have been doing basically for quite some time. And it never felt wrong, right? But it also doesn't feel wrong to say it more often now. I don't know. Just a minor thing. So tests are passing, which again per se is not the only truth, right? So if the model broke the code just to make the test pass, then nothing is gained. So, but yeah, I think I found a solution that works for me as that's as good as it needs to be at the moment. But I'm sure there's room for improvement. So now we're running into the tool call limitation again. Also, one thing I totally forgot to check if how the costs for calling the thinking model as opposed to calling the 3.7 sonnet without thinking actually what the difference is. But let's continue with the thinking model for today's live stream. You can always switch things up in Cursor. I'm not sure if this, I think this works in Windsurf as well, which is a really cool UX feature, right? I think it's underappreciated. So we're proceeding. Interesting. I'm not sure if we actually were done with the previous. We just had the tool call limits. I'm not sure if we want to proceed with the next stage in the game plan. Let's clean up a little again. Database integration. Proceed, please. But check once more. Check the game plan. Where we left off due to the tool call limitation. I just want to be really sure that we were not in the middle of doing stuff, comprehensive integration tests. So I think this last test was in the directory integration tests. The last task was dealing with or concerned with integration tests. So I think we're done, or we were done. Yeah, I think we can move to stage 4. Let's run a test once more to verify everything is working correctly. Now we're talking, and that's exactly what I wanted it to do. Integration test. So we actually, even though I said in the beginning, oh no, now 60 errors, I don't want to get caught up in integration testing. Now we are actually in the middle of it again, but the first one for the unit, oh no, we were in unit test land. Okay, now we're integration land. Okay, then let's move through this valley. We need to fix SQL adapter to match the constructor of SQL connection manager. That's a great example of here the model can take the complete wrong turn to say, oh, let's just align the code to the test, right? No matter if it breaks any other code components that rely on, for example, either the current state of SQLite adapter or the current state and constructor of SQLite connection manager. That's exactly what can go wrong, right? So let me accept all and then run the tests. We got one failed test in adapter initialization still. Let's modify the test to match the correct format. Okay, this sounds more reassuring. I'm fine with tweaking the test more than tweaking the code actually, obviously. Um, this is tongue in cheek, right? I mean, unit testing is it's not that easy. There's no black or white answer to this, I think. I mean, obviously there are the test-driven development gurus that say always write the test first before you write any line of code. I'm definitely not that. I don't want to shit on TED, but I don't know. It feels too rigid to do it that way. It's also a really stupid idea to not have any unit tests at all. So at some point you just need to do it and do it well, but also not get caught up with doing it for everything or wanting it to do for everything, because then you might have this ominous, infamous number of code coverage of 100%. But sometimes this doesn't really, it's not the well, how do you say, the lacking the one and one all and be all. I don't remember the saying in English, but it's not the end of it. It's not the silver bullet either, to just have this magical number be 100, because there's ways of shooting yourself in the foot while you think you're doing the right thing. So how are we dealing with this? Now let's fix the get repository method. UK, there's no chance now to get into this at this hour. I'm making a great argument for coding, for late night coding. Don't I? Or aren't I? The raw query method in SQL adapter. Okay, I would still at least wanna. So we are in the adapters, we are in the integration tests realm basically. So we're dealing with our adapter implementations for SQLite and Postgres. And there's obviously different ways of executing our queries. There's stuff like SQL Alchemy and SQL Model, which kind of abstract the raw connection through SQL statements away from the user. But I think we also apparently implemented ways of running or firing raw queries, stuff like that. Select star from whatever. It's also modify the health checks. Okay, sure, do your thing. And we're still failing, obviously. I'm really good at predicting stuff like that because it just happens all the time, right? Unit tests or integration tests with or without the help of AI is always a bit messy. Status is not defined. Okay, but let's see. Okay, we're running integration tests and 3 are already passing. So we are off. Please continue with the integration with running the integration tests and figuring out what needs to be done. We were just interrupted by the tool call limit. Actually, if anyone knows how to quickly change the tool call limit, if it's possible in Cursor, then please let me know. No one in the chat, I think. I don't see if anyone is even still watching with at this late hour. Obviously, there are people, like from my analytics, I saw that lots of people are also watching from the States and other parts of the world. So this might be a friendlier time for the States. But then again, no one might choose to actually jump in one of my live streams over there because I'm still just starting out with this entire YouTube thing, and I'm liking it. I'm liking it nonetheless. Even if I know that I'm just talking to myself, basically. So yeah, do that. Fix the integration tests. And by now I understand the issue. That's definitely I kind of cringe on the inside because I'm this is the time where you basically need to pray to the vibe gods that everything goes according to plan. That's exactly why I came up with hey, this is how we do unit testing and fixing stuff that comes up through unit testing prompt template. But I'm just stuck with praying to the vibe gods at this point because I just don't have that figured out yet, right? As I mentioned before. But it's a good reminder that I need to sort this out. Like, where do the boundaries lie between saying, hey, fix this, and then at some point switch over to actually do it through proper unit tests. And when you encounter problems with that, then you need to obviously fix that, but do it in a structured way. So it's kind of like a back and forth between those two prompt templates in a way. That's also session.exec versus execute, like written out in the short form. That's also something I know that it's different. I just don't know the details, the intricate details of the one or the other well enough to. So this always confuses me, to be honest, a bit still. So again, an area to learn about. Set up method to actually create the tables. The tables should created by create all, but based on the metadata we're using SQL model. Okay, I'm still following along on a meta level at least. Now let's fix the test fixture. Okay, fixture. Yep. And the integration test is passing. Woohoo! That's nice. But we got one. Okay, one is passing. The adapter initialization test. Wow. Detached instance. Okay, that's definitely. That's still a bit above my pay grade, to be honest, of creating deep or shallow copies, as it seems like. And detached instances. Interesting. I definitely need to. There's so much stuff still to learn, as always, right? So. Scalar attribute. Okay. This is probably fetch exactly one, or fetch like many records from the database. Implement direct transactions in our tests instead of using the repositories. Yeah, that's again something I'm fine with because it's talking about changing things, switching things up in a unit test or an integration test file, which is fine. I mean, I'm fine with maybe testing things more explicit and changing code, but it would have been fatal to say, using repositories in our code was just a bad idea after all, the pattern, right? So let's do it in the raw style. This is exactly when you can kiss your code base goodbye, basically. Back to session exec. Now that's the second thing, right? We had execute, and now where's the exec statement? Execute raw query here. Session exec statement. So we're kind of detaching the raw statement, calling the raw statement to, we're in a test. Okay, so this is just a test. Okay, that's not gonna spend too much time on that. You'll figure it out, model. And the test passes as well, direct database access, cool. Now let's try another test. Integration, SQLite adapter. Wow, this passed right away. Now we need to fix the migration application test. Okay, so still not done with integration testing. So now I didn't read, need to fix the migration application test. Also, again, I'm fine with that. And we're still failing. Assertion error. Applying migration, invalid syntax. So this should be easily fixable, but please continue with the last integration test we tackled. We were simply interrupted by the tool call limit. So I think I'm going to continue with the live stream until midnight. If we're close to getting the game plan done by then, I mean, there are not that many stages left. I think 2, if I counted correctly. But yeah, after that, I definitely need to get some sleep. And we'll continue tomorrow. Actually, I mean, obviously, I/1 always kind of thinks that things go quicker. I would have liked to move a bit past where we are right now, or I am at right now, but like bottom line, I'm still quite happy. Okay, now the SQL adapter tests run as well. Failing test for, since we're already working replacement. Wait, what? Let's skip the failing test for now, since we already have a working replacement. Okay, that's a strategy as well. I'm not gonna fix it, we're just gonna skip it. Someone implemented a workaround, I guess. They told me. Okay, but fine for now. I actually didn't want to embark into integration testing, running the tests right now anyway, so we did, and 17 are passing already. Were those integration tests? Not sure. Sometimes it's... No, those were the unit tests. Exactly, 17 unit tests, and we got 7 passing integration tests. Now that we've fixed all necessary issues, let's update the game plan to mark stage 3 as complete. Sure, let's do that. Did we though? We did. But, stop. Please provide a git commit message for stage 3 implementation aspects before proceeding. Again, a slight deviation from the prompt template, but that's completely understandable, at least for me as a carbon meatbag. We threw lots of iterations for getting the integration tests to work at the model, and it just forgot. It actually remembered to call the tool for proceeding. It just forgot to deal with git commit stuff, right? So I'm fine with that. Good job, model. So now proceed, please, with calling the appropriate tool. And I'm 95% sure it will call the proceed template tool, so the which basically means the apply prompt proceed function in my MCP server. Again, if you want to know more about this, then check out the previous live streams, which I will also turn into regular YouTube videos with a bit of editing after having applied a bit of editing to them, because I think otherwise I'll be punished by the YouTube algorithm gods. Oh, I need to, didn't I run this? I think now we're running into internet connection issues. I'm not sure if we, let's see, what stage is it talking about? Stage 4. I'll continue implementing stage 4. Yep, that's fine. Do so. And then after that we got stage 5. Whoa, Docker and deployment. This usually takes iteration or 5 until everything is set up correctly. So finishing the entire game plan soonish in this live stream might have been too big of an ask, but let's see. Let's see how far we get. A bit further is definitely still manageable. Let's clean up a little again. So we're actually implementing the resilience mechanism, which is apparently centered around a circuit breaker, sorry. Fallback handler, timeout handler, comprehensive error handling and logging, monitoring hooks, chaos testing. I hope we don't get caught up in this. This is a huge, could be a huge time eater, Zeitfresser, time waster, time eater. Yeah, right. I hope Bob is still holding up okay-ish, but I still see LEDs shining, so I think Bob is still there. Where's Gladys? Oh, Gladys is on the table, out of reach. So fallback handler. So we are in the resilience module in our, so we've tackled core, we've tackled adapters. This was the last stage. Now we are focusing on resilience, which is, again, for me, it is a stepping stone towards anti-fragility as the end-all be-all. I think this was the saying that I was looking for, end-all be-all of things. Again, which we might never accomplish. I mean, because you know what is anti-fragility in coding terms? I think probably no one knows. Maybe everyone, maybe someone knows and I just don't know it. That's perfectly possible. But I don't know. I just like to reason about stuff like that and think about it, and then wanting to dabble around with it, right? Which with what this basically is, it's not just dabbling around. As I said, I need to fix this async sync stuff regarding databases and Streamlit for my work, and I'm sure that I will find a generalizable solution that will pay off in the long run, because databases and Streamlit will not go away. Streamlit might at some point, but Postgres and relational databases are they stood the test of time numerous times now. Even I'm not sure where we are in the entire vector database thing, which was all the rage, if you remember. Once the first APIs came out, and people thought about, hey, how can we actually build systems with the OpenAI API, and then Anthropic obviously came out, and yeah, getting all the context and the required context for the task at hand to the LLM or to the agents is not trivial. And so RAG and vector databases was like the proclaimed silver bullet for a while. Everyone that has tried it out in a naive manner probably learned quickly that it's not that easy. It is not that silver bullet. At least I didn't find it yet. There's stuff that's I mean, it's all, RAG. Nothing wrong with RAG per se, but you need to have your metadata in order. You need to have the right chunking strategy. There's so much stuff that's involved, right? That makes it quite cumbersome, in my opinion, at least. It was about what, 4 months to 5 months back, uh, where I actually took a deep dive into that. And yeah, but let's leave that for another time. Oh, chaos testing. I cringe because I actually don't want to spend time on that, anything related to that right now. But let's see. If things do not work just because of that, then we'll just take it out of the game or of the picture for now. Let's create a package level initialization file for the resilience module to make it easier to import the resilience components. That's good. Yup. Let's now create basic integration tests. Integration tests again. Don't have time. That's tongue-in-cheek, obviously. Testing takes time, and we should then take the time, right? Yeah, I wonder if and when, or when and if and when, um, unit testing, sandboxing, running your own code actually is picked up even more, so that the agents are able to self-correct themselves, or to self-correct basically, more than they are already now, which is already fantastic if you compare it to like 6 months, or let alone a year or a year and a half ago. What we have with the coding agents or coding assistants, or whatever you want to call them, is just absolutely mind-blowing, right? But still, obviously, we always tend to find the flaw, or ah that's missing, or it could be better here. That's just how I think I think just how we roll as a species somehow. But let's also not get caught up in meta philosophical territory here, but just try to get this game plan implemented for today, for now, to have something tangible. And then tomorrow morning I will put things up on GitHub in case anyone is interested in, you know, what we cooked up here. Where are we at? It's the init of the entire package here that we are in. That's also something really weird that we have, you know, we manage package versions, or we can manage package versions in like numerous different places. The PyProject toml, the initialization file for the entire module, which in our case then is the package for now, which is called Antifragile DB for now. Yeah, also lots of stuff to learn, things around UV or poetry, on, you know, using version bumping frameworks, stuff like that. Let's create a test directory structure to organize our tests. Interesting, it wants to do yet another subdirectory. It already did that. I'm not sure if I like that, because unless there is something like resilience tests as opposed to integration and unit tests, possibly. Here, PyProject toml, that's obviously also where the version is managed, right here. So interesting. Now poetry enters the picture. Woo! Had I some energy left, then I would definitely probably step in here and intervene, because I always, those are situations that you do not want to see. Like huge blocks of changes, either additions or deletions, and lots of them. For example, here we're going back to Python version 3.8. I don't know. No. No, sorry. No, no, no. Nope. No, 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 no. I do not like the fact that you want to change PyProject toml that significantly. Please reason about this aspect once more. And also be sure to use UV instead of poetry. All right, I think I need to call it a day for today, because my energy is running really low, and I think I want to tackle this in a bit more detail tomorrow with a fresh, let's see, let's accept, oh, shoot. Let's maybe try this very last thing, and then I'll stop the live stream. That's also something I don't like about models, when they don't need to change dependencies directly in the PyProject toml, but they can use something like UV add or poetry add or pip install Or pip install, not directly probably, because it has a different mechanism of managing dependencies with the requirements txt file. But for Poetry and UV, the PyProject TOML is governed by the mechanism, right, or the framework that makes up Poetry and UV. So actually already included in your dependencies list. Let's see. Yeah, I didn't pay close attention to if that's actually, and I don't know if there's like tool.uv that should be there in case we're using UV and not Poetry. So again, something I need to understand more after or in moving from Poetry or trying out UV and seeing what I like better. That's basically can be used with UV instead of them. Yeah. Not sure. Make the year to have no project structure is probably organized with the resilience code and tests in the correct location. Source Antifragile be resilience, test unit, test integration resilience. All this maintains compatibility with existing project based on workflow. README using UV instead of pip. Okay, that's good. No, you don't need to explain anything. So we got around destroying PyProject TOML. I think, I hope. Let's clean up a little and then see where we are actually at. No thanks, just check the game plan once more and decide what's next. Yeah, so definitely not going to start with the Docker deployment tonight anymore, but I definitely want to find the right breakpoint basically for today. According to the game plan, the next stage will be stage 5, Docker deployment. Would you like me to start working on stage 5? No, please just update the game plan and draft the git commit message, please. Please. I'm so polite. I'm actually listening to still the radio. Cool. I like lo-fi hip hop when coding. Sometimes I need something a bit more upbeat or up tempo, but for the most part, this works quite well. Notation notes, sure. All right, then we, oh yeah, the git commit, sorry. Git add all, git commit. Oops. What did I just do? Git commit. I hit the wrong, it's getting late. Forgot to paste. Oh my god. Again, as I said, I will not push this yet because I'm not sure if I actually like the way of if Antifragile DB is actually the right cut basically through how do you say that? What I want to say, the how many components, or sorry, I'm not quite decided yet if I look at my referenced code again, which is here in the ref subfolder. There's lots of stuff besides DB interaction, right? Auth and core stuff and file system, handling file system stuff and the Streamlit app. And I'm not sure how I want to decouple it into individual Python modules and or packages yet. So that's why I need to think about this a bit more, but rest assured that you will definitely get access to the code in one way or another. And with that, let's conclude this live stream. Had a bit less energy than I hoped for when it was 7 o'clock or 6 or 7 o'clock at night. But I hope you still got something out of this. Yeah, and I would love to see you and welcome you in the next live stream, which probably will take place tomorrow, or sometimes definitely sometime this week. And if not for a live stream, then I hope to catch you in one of the next videos, which I also try to get back into. It's just editing so much more work than actually sitting down and actually doing stuff and just recording and speaking into this black triangle into the void, having an eye on my live chat, which has been silent for hours now, which is fine. Yeah, I enjoy it anyways. So hope you enjoy it too, whoever might be watching, and catch you in the next one. Bye. Have a great night or day, depending on where you are.